Hello, welcome to our Michael Herr video entitled The Moon. In this video we're going to be talking about the subject matter known as the moon. Was the moon something that the NASA Apollo missions actually landed on? Or was it something else going on? Some people believe that NASA landed on the moon. Some people do not believe NASA landed on the moon. And there have been many facets of discussion in regards to the moon. So much confusion, so much innuendo, and a lot of unfocused nature about what could have been actually going on with the moon. Now, according to NASA's version, NASA stated that Neil Armstrong was the very first human person in history to ever land on the moon. And they released a lot of other weird things about the moon. That it had 1/6 of gravity, that there was no rain, and that there was no prior levels of oxygen, and there was no real environment in regards to the moon, and that all those craters on the moon was formulated by just wandering asteroids who just happened to hit the moon and things of this sort. Well, there's been a lot of what is called proof to disprove a lot of the things that NASA is saying. And it kind of just does leave to the question, what is the truth then in regards to the moon? Well, first, let's look at a few photographs here. I want you to take a look at this. And when you take a real good look at it, this photograph here sparked a NASA employee to actually quit his employment in NASA. And he left a testimony that if the American government ever wanted to take this matter seriously, of advanced colony and technology on the moon, that he would be the first to testify about what NASA covered up regarding the moon. What made him quit was that NASA wanted him to airbrush this photograph, which actually shows a base on the moon. You also get strange photographs like this as well. And as you can see here, this is one of those things that, well, deserves an explanation. You also have strange things like this. That is also something that needs to be talked about and analyzed. There seems to be also vehicles that are on the moon as well. And it does leave to question, what is it that NASA covers up? We also have anomalies like this, also on the moon. And we have strange towers that are seen on the moon, leaving us to wonder why that's there, is the question. We also get things like this as well, making us wonder what could really be on the moon. And not only that, this right here is believed to have been a structure filmed by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. But it makes you wonder, indeed, we didn't see this footage on television, did we? So now that I've explained that, or showed you that, I'd like to read some experts of facts in regards to that, and then just give you a broad explanation of it. When it comes to the planetary travel, the orb that often gets talked about the most is the moon. Earth's moon is just one of the many moons in the solar system, but it is the most important moon to us. The moon is part of the circuits that connects to the space-time streams of the solar system and to the orbits of the Earth itself. Without the moon, there would be no telling or movement of time, nor would there be any stable regulations of the Earth's many environments like the ocean waters. This is why the moon is very important to us. The moon has been an object of imagination and fantasy to many kinds of persons throughout the many centuries. It is also an object of idolatrous worship and an object that was revered. Mankind told stories of walking and visiting on the moon many years before someone named Neil Armstrong. First, to understand, most of these stories were considered historical records but fictional in regards to institutions of today. But archaeological findings are discovering things that are very shocking concerning Neil's record in history and the moon itself. First, to understand the scandal right is to know that NASA has a mountain of evidence against them that points to them being completely dishonest before the public. There was leaked video footage of NASA filming the moon landing, and on the footage, Neil Armstrong is heard cursing just to show his displeasure about filming a fake moon landing. Why did NASA have this footage filmed is the number one question. It turns out the footage was the same footage people saw on television, believing it was the actual moon landing. The number two question would be, did Neil and Buzz and that third guy no one talks about actually go to the moon? Another problem was that years later, after people believed Neil and Buzz were the first two persons on the moon, a Spanish television program based in Mexico revealed hidden footage of another leaked NASA video that related to the Apollo 11 mission. On the film, Neil and Buzz are shown walking around an abandoned ruinous building, and they're collecting pieces of strange metals into piles. This, of course, we never saw on American television that famous night. Also, Buzz himself went on national television and told people that he saw a structure on the moon that was operating as some kind of planetary lighthouse. And Buzz told the reporters that he thinks God put it there, or the universe put it there. Why did Buzz say that if we are to understand that there were no visitors to the moon but them, or before them? Neil, during an honorary speech in his twilight years, made a strange statement that one day the public will know the full truth. What is the truth he is talking about if we already know the truth? To answer the first question comes from the investigations done by David Childress, who is a respected archaeologist, researcher, and scientist. David Childress authored such books as Technology of the Gods, Vimana Aircraft of Ancient India and Atlantis, Extraterrestrial Archaeology, and many other books about the various subjects this chapter is about from what I am reading. David Childress took a special investigative interest in the moon and NASA operations regarding it. Now, I don't know what David Childress' religious beliefs are or anything of that sort, but I just want to reiterate what he had to say about the moon was rather interesting, and what he had to say about NASA regarding it. David was one of the people who exposed the fact that NASA removed or blurred out many objects from thousands of pictures of the surface of the moon. They also removed the true colors of the moon's surface and removed all aerial sights seen from the moon regarding the many pictures that came from the Apollo missions. David believed that regarding that first question as to why NASA filmed a fake moon landing, and regarding the second question as to did Neil and Buzz really go to the moon, the answer will be both. Meaning NASA filmed a fake moon landing to cover up the real moon mission that Neil and Buzz actually went on. David also exposed many facts regarding this cover-up within his various documentaries and of sorts. Here's another thing that is often very incredible to understand as well. England's Royal Astronomical Society had been observing the moon as part of a project that began in 1871 AD and ended in 1896 AD. The project included 40 of its top members, and what they found through the telescope technology of the late 19th century was stunning. In their findings, they observed geometrical shapes and geometrical light patterns on the moon. Their findings also included the discovery of great white dome buildings, long bridge structures, and possible movements upon the surface of the moon from intelligent life. They found this using 19th century telescope technology. Now imagine what can be found using 20th and 21st century technology. In 1870, a strange purplish haze was seen moving near the surface of the moon and was even illuminating the floor of the moon. In 1881, large regions of the moon appeared in a strong velvet light. Sometime after, as the work was carried on by other astronomers, this is what they found. In 1907, a large part of the massive crater called Plato was seen glowing with light. In 1912, there was a strange red glowing area appearing on the shadow side of the moon. In 1944, there was heavy mist on the floor of the surface of the moon to indicate explosions. In 1955, there was the discovery of huge, bright white flashes that experts believed were other explosions on the surface of the moon. In 1958, an area on the moon named Mount Piton was enveloped in a cloud mist that had the appearances of a massive explosion. In 1959, a crater was destroyed by a reported hovering cloud that had the appearance of a nuclear explosion. All of this to be rather very interesting indeed. So what is all of this about, you may wonder? What would the Bible have to say about certain things like this? Well, let's kind of look at it for a second here. In Job chapter 37, let's look at what verse 21 states. And now men see not the bright light which is in the clouds, but the wind passeth and cleanseth them. People also will believe or do believe that this verse is about the weather. However, there is more to these verses than just a marble or the weather. Verse 18 in Job 37 is actually giving a comparison of visualizing God's power by seeing the universe from the window of a ship in space. Meaning Job had one time described a spaceship in the book of Job. When we look at the photographs and when we look at what has already been said, there is also this person named Stanley Kubrick that often comes up again and again. Stanley Kubrick is believed to be the one who filmed the fake moon landing for NASA. Therefore, he was strongly believed that they probably never went to the moon. However, there is evidence that Neil and Buzz did go to the moon. However, what we saw on television was not the actual mission that they were on. Could it have been that the government had been to the moon before the Apollo missions, and that the Apollo missions were for another purpose other than exploration and discovery? Could it have been a reconnecting to governments that were on the moon prior to NASA appearing there, and that the true face of the moon and that its true history is what's being denied within information? The Bible shows us that humankind one time spoke one language, and as Genesis revealed, there was nothing impossible for them to do. Humankind has been visited many times by what is called biblically as the satanic host of Satan, offering gifts coming down from the skies as above, so below, many of them coming from the oceans, tapping into the realms of dimensional spheres, even traveling to other planets. Even bringing human beings there to work them as slaves and to induce this connection of their spiritual government with the temporal governments, particularly with Earth. That human beings have worshipped the stars, worshipped the planets, regards to leaders and pagans for centuries, and dealt with secrets that went way beyond what often common people would be able to accept or believe. And when we fast forward to today, here's what we're told as fact. Neil and Buzz went to the moon, and no one else had been to the moon before them. That has been proven by a lot of evidence to be not true. The footage that we saw on television was the actual moon mission. By a lot of evidence, that is proven to be not true. What is the evidence is showing? That there are colonies operating right now on the moon. There are many ruins on the moon that are thousands of years old. That the moon has been visited by human beings in the past and in the future, and therefore what's been estimated is that millions of people have been to the moon before Neil and Buzz, if we account all the centuries and all the accounts, and we account the evidence from that has been gathered. Astronomers in England Scientists even in Russia and many places around the world, and including scientists and competent researchers right here in the United States of America, do not buy NASA's version of events regarding the moon. It is believed collectively by them that the moon actually has a stable gravity, that there's actually oxygen on the moon, that there's ways that a body can be chemically induced and even be immune to the effects of the moon to walk around the moon without a suit. Now, isn't that something? Apparently, there are things about the moon that connects to our time streams, and that playing with the moon, being on the moon, is a pagan interest that should not be followed by example. So it does lead to question. What were the Apollo missions all about? Were they really about exploration? Or was it they were there to take technology off the moon, reconnect with the colonies and with the demonic governments, which they would call aliens or the governments of their gods, on the moon? Why is it most astronauts were Freemasons? Why is it most of them were military contracted and military trained? Does that sound like a civilian exploration operation, or more like a military deep shadow operation, which would entail to keep secrets and to keep certain information from the public, and therefore they would have to film a fake moon landing in order to bring about the narrative of that deception? It makes you wonder, what did Neil and Buzz confront when radio transmissions revealed that they had spoke to people on the moon, were terrified by demonic entities on the moon, and every mission seemed to have these parameters? Are the NASA astronauts who are still alive today being honest with us about what really occurred during those missions? And what is it they were actually doing on the moon? Because all the evidence shows they weren't exploring anything. They weren't discovering anything, and they weren't taking a giant leap for mankind either. Makes you wonder, indeed. As the Bible says, let the reader understand. This has been our Michael Herr video. If you'd like to donate to Michael Herr, please send it to MIGUELJIMENEZ at P.O. Box 39204, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28278. You can also purchase the books by me at www.lulu.com. I want to thank you for those who have been helping me. It hasn't been a whole lot of you, but I do thank you for it anyway, and I do thank you for subscribing and supporting the channel. And I'm praying for you. Please pray for me. God bless you all. I'll see you next video.